I don't know if I'm going. I don't know if I'm going to go. Fine. We're good. We're good. I'll let you know. Because I'm waiting for a phone call. And if I don't have to go to work, then I'll go.
ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا ومن يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Indeed, all praise is due to Allah. We praise Him. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil in our soul and from our sinful deeds. Those who are guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no one can misguide them. Those who are not guided by Allah, there is no guide for them. I bear witness that there is no God, there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and messenger. O you who believe, revere Allah as He should be revered and die not except as Muslims. To proceed. Just before we get started today, I'd like to welcome you to ISLAM. I think we're still on Ramadan jet lag because the last 2 Sundays we had low attendance, lower than we've had in 7 years. Because typically we start off with about 30 and end up with about 50 at least. So please start inviting your friends. We need to revive the meeting, inshallah. But I want to welcome you to ISLAM. It stands for the Islamic Society of Leading American Muslims, an organization that was established to conduct da'wah, which means to invite people to learn about the true and peaceful message of Islam, and then to encourage them, empower them, and educate them so that they can practice this religion in a non-threatening environment. So at ISLAM, we don't allow any criticism, any condemnation, any judgments, except good ones. So if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. Otherwise, I will meet you in the parking lot. We want you to have a safe place to come and grow wherever you are in your spiritual journey. And that's one of the biggest visions of ISLAM, is that you feel safe and know that no one is going to judge you. So having said that, there's not going to be a potluck for the month of August because of previous events and not being able to get home. If anybody has a Panera near your house and you would be willing to donate your time on a Saturday night, my wife and I used to do it in the midst of getting ready for this class and everything. We will give you a letter to solicit for the donations from them, and you can give that letter to your local Panera. We collect unbroken cell phones. Those cell phones we don't need, as long as they work. We do not need the cords. We just need the cell phone. They are converted to be used by victims of domestic violence. We collect empty ink cartridges and toners to raise money to do dawah. And also perishable food items, non-perishable food items. If you can bring a bag of beans or a can of food, we take those to local food shelters so that we're making a difference. And that's another form of dawah that we do. We also have some people here today for the first time. Natalia from Russia, we're very happy to have you. And although Suleiman and Laith and Rowan are not here for the first time, it's been a couple of years since they've been here. They've been living in Jordan. We're very happy to have you with us today, alhamdulillah. Laith is here to go to UCF. MashaAllah, a future doctor in the community, I'm sure. Inshallah. So we're very happy to see you. And we have Ed's wife today, mashallah. And I'm having a senior moment. Rhonda, right? Okay, good. Okay. We're very happy to have you with us today, and I hope that this will become a habit for you to come and be with us, inshallah. You're a part of our family. We've adopted you even before you came. So did I leave anybody out? Yes. Please introduce yourself. Alisa. I texted you on the way here, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, yes. All right. Just trying to see if my mind is right. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you as a part of our family. Now, I'd like to encourage you, before you leave today, if you're looking for support, if you don't feel like you have support in this journey, take a phone number, girls and ladies, from one lady here and guys from one guy here. Just to keep it straight and keep you safe and to keep me out of trouble. So make sure you get a phone number today of someone that you don't have so that you have a support network. That's what we're all about. Don't be shy. Ask for a phone number. Okay? Is there anybody here that wants to get married that's not married? Because I always like to put them up on the... this sister wants to get married. So if anybody has an eligible bachelor in your family, Muslim bachelor, she wants to get married. Suleiman is also not married, even though he didn't raise his hand. I'm just going to throw him under the bus. He's looking for the right one. And now he probably won't come back. But now I love you, brother. That's why I'm teasing you.
I'm looking for someone.
Kathy's looking and...
No, not me.
Oh, no.
I'm looking for somebody who is eligible to get married.
Who's eligible? What age group?
45.
45. Okay.
You want somebody that young, sister?
Not for her. So,
I have refused all three.
I do want to,
Mama in the
you know, people, if you're interested in getting married, you got to put it out there. If you don't put it out there, it's not going to happen by osmosis. You don't get married by osmosis. You know, it just doesn't sort of happen. So if you want to get married, you got to put it out there.
But I love the enthusiasm. She put up 2 hands.
I like that.
I've been with him for 8 years.
You've been wanting to get married for 8 years?
No, I've been with my boyfriend for 8 years.
Oh, you've been with him. Has he proposed yet?
No.
Send him to see him.
Yeah.
Send him
You know
to
him?
see him. I know him. I need to talk to him.
Lord, yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So, today we are going to, a good supporter of our organization that sends people our way is having a luncheon for us. And so we'll be leaving here a little bit earlier than usual today to caravan to the lunch. And I appreciate all of you who RSVP'd to that lunch because it's very important to do that so that people can cater appropriately.
And
Today-
there is excellent food too.
Okay, good, and that too. So today I want to just tell you where we're going. As you know, we've been doing the tafsir of Surah Al-Baqarah, the second surah of the Holy Quran, and I think we started about 6 months ago, and we've only gotten to verse 78. And it usually will take me an hour and a half to lecture on about 3 verses. That's sort of the average. But typically our Sunday class will spend 1 hour and a half from 11:30 until 1 o'clock covering about 3 verses of the Quran and what it means in the world we live in today. So today I'm going to be jumping around a little bit because obviously we finished Ramadan, we finished the importance of Shawwal. How many people are fasting in the month of Shawwal, the 6 days? Allahu Akbar, that's wonderful, alhamdulillah. So these are great blessings. If you think about it, if you fast the 30 days in the month of Ramadan, and then you fast the 10 days in Shawwal, you get the blessing of the whole year. So, you know, it's a great blessing, it's a great reward. As a matter of fact, one hadith says it's like fasting a lifetime. So, if you can fast on Mondays and Thursdays for the remaining Mondays and Thursdays of the month of Shawwal, and also remember to make up your days if you miss any days.
Your khutbah was excellent on Friday.
Okay.
Man's beating the woman.
Yes, yes. Friday I had the honor to do the khutbah here at Jama Masjid, the English khutbah, and I actually went with sort of fear and trepidation because I presented a khutbah on domestic violence, not in Islam. In Islam, not. And talked about verses that are taken out of context by abusers, and got a lot of feedback. So I've actually been asked by 2 different organizations if they would publish the khutbah. So I have to now get it in proper grammatical form or publishing order, because khutbahs are not typically in publishing order, they're in speaking order. So I did feel good about it, and particularly in light of the fact that we got such good response about it. And it is important that
Excellent.
Thank you very much. So let's get to the story at hand today. We're first going to talk about Ummiyun, which is an unlettered people, because that is one of the elements of the verse where we're starting. We're then going to move to Amani, which, and I don't have, yes I do. Let's see how good I can do this. Amani. That's what it looks like in Arabic, even if I'm saying it wrong, okay? Which means desires. There's another word for Arabic which I almost always say wrong, hawa. Did I say it right for desire? Hawa. Which is referring to your desires, which we want to bring into control. So that's going to be a large portion of the class today, alhamdulillah. And then we're going to talk about the criminal act of people who follow their desires. Okay, so just to give you an idea, a good teacher tells you what they're going to tell you, then tells you, and then reminds you of what they told you. So inshallah, that's what my efforts, what I'm trying to do here. So let's get rid of some of all of the stuff, getting a little boxed in here. So let's start. We already covered that first part, so I'm actually going to begin at verse 78. And what I want you to understand is that when I use the word Jews here, we're not referring to all the Jews, we're referring specifically to the Israelites at that time. And many of these stories are also recorded in the Bible. So we love the people of the book. That's what our Quran teaches. We as Muslims love the Jews and the Christians, the people of the book. So we cannot knock those people. This is a specific story and a specific time. So we have to know that, because a lot of times you get around Muslims, and particularly, unfortunately, because of the Zionist situation in the Gaza Strip right now, they misunderstand the difference between a Jew and a Zionist.
Oh, yeah.
You really need to do your homework, because the Zionist is about nationalism. It's not one of the three Abrahamic faiths, okay? As a matter of fact, just to give you a little bit of amazing information about it, if you look at this, what is this right here, folks?
Triangle.
Oh, wow. Smart group of people. How many sides does that have? Three. And if I do another triangle like this, how many sides does that have?
6.
And that has a total of 6. Then if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's 6. 6 sides, 6 stars, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. And I'll leave the rest for your imagination. And that flag flies over modern day Israel. And don't let me get started talking about it, because I will cry. My heart is in so much pain because of what's going on in the Gaza Strip today. We live every day of our life not worrying about our homes being bulldozed down. We do not go to bed worried about whether our children will have a limb blown off. We don't worry about how many hours of electricity we're going to have every day. So we need to pray for the people in Gaza. We really need to pray hard that
Islamic University destroyed 20,000 students in their Gaza, and it is destroyed intentionally.
yes. And also, there was something I wanted to say, but it completely left my mind. We just need to pray for those people. So, and there are among them, these particular Jews, these Israelites, Ummiyun, and these are the unlettered people. Okay, these were people that did not know how to read or write. We would say illiterate people today. And they did not know the book. Now the book that they're referring to here was the Torah. Very good. But they trust upon Amani, which is their false desires. And so the lesson today is going to be a lot about what happens when we trust our false desires. And I just want to say that in the Islamic tradition, we believe that we were all born Muslim. Now what does that mean? We were all born, and somehow I'm losing power here.
Submitting our will to God.
We were all born with a nature that was drawn to Allah. And then out of our freedom of will, we might have chose to deny that or to conceal that. So a person who conceals that is sometimes called a person with kufar, which means they have chosen to disbelieve what they are naturally have a tendency toward, which is to submit to the one that created it. So when we do that, we tend to start focusing on these false desires. And we follow the self instead of what Allah has ordained us to do. Now, if we stop and think about it, the sun, the moon, all the insects, every single thing in this world is submitted to God. All the planets are obeying Allah, and none of them are spinning out of course. The only thing that spins out of course is people who decide not to obey God. If you decide not to follow that natural fitra, that instinct that was put in you at birth, 85% of us came out in prostration to Allah like this, just the same way that we pray. Unless you were breech or you got tangled up in the birth canal, you came out praising God. You came out perfect, with no knowledge of sin, no knowledge of cursing, no knowledge of wanting to beat somebody up, no knowledge of wanting to steal, no knowledge of any of that stuff. And then, God bless you women, some religions decided to tack on you that you were responsible for the original sin. Islam does not believe that. Islam does not teach that. Islam elevates the women to the role of being the footstool to paradise. So women were given the rights to divorce, the right to marry whom they please, the right to own their businesses. As a matter of fact, Allah said that men are the qawam, the maintainers and the protectors of women. And they support them from their means. So in Islam, a woman actually doesn't have to work. She doesn't even have to clean the house. She doesn't even have to cook. Her husband can say, listen, I'd like to marry you. And she could say, yeah, but in my contract, you're going to have to hire somebody to cook because I don't like to cook. And if he wants her, that's what he's got to do. It's not the responsibility of the woman in Islam to do that stuff. And I know when I do say this, you should have seen the whispering in the masjid on Friday when I was saying some of this stuff. Some people were not happy. Some people were happy, but some people were not happy. But this is a fact, folks. That's how women are a queen, Islamically. Unfortunately, there are cultures of misogynists. There are cultures that have, discounted women, and now it's what's being conveyed in the world out there to represent Islam. But that's not what the Quran says. A woman who is treated like Allah commanded her to be treated will feel like a queen. And a man that's treated the way that Allah wants his wife to guard his reputation will feel like a king. So you can actually be royalty if you're a Muslim practicing according to Islam. Let me get back to the lesson. Okay, so then verse 79 says, then woe to those who write the book with their own hands. So, woe, anytime you see woe to that, it is sort of indicative that there is a punishment coming. Right? If your parent says, woe to you for taking the car at 12 years of age for a spin, you know that means you're probably going to get grounded for a month. So there's a punishment, there's a penalty. There's a criminal offense, and it's going to be followed up with some kind of consequence, okay? So, the criminal offense in this case were that these Israelites at the time were changing the meaning of the Holy Quran. And they actually had a book that they'd written by hand, and when ignorant people would come and have questions, they would pull out the book and they would tell the people what they wanted to hear because they would pay them. And this is going on today. And so I think I wanted to build this foundation because you'll understand it more as we get into it. I think there's some exciting stuff in today's lesson, but I had to build this foundation first. So these people that were coming to these rabbis at the time, or these Israelites, were deficient in their understanding. But the Jewish scholars were giving them mixed messages. They were actually reinforcing their superstitions and that kind of thing in order for them to feel right. And you know, we have people today that will tell people what they want to hear because they want to be popular. Their desire and their egos want to be stroked. So I want to have a lot of friends. I want to have 1,000 friends like people do on Facebook. So I'll just tell you what you want to hear, and that way I'll have a lot of friends. But even though those friends will not help me, if I ask them, listen, for $1, now everybody's going to defriend me immediately. They're going to say, well, don't want to know him anymore. He wants $1. So I don't know him anymore. So, I'll go to the next slide. I think I'm ready to do that now. All right. So, ummiyun is plural for ummi, and that is a person who does not write. Now, in the time of, in the early days of Christianity and Islam, often a scribe was a person that could do this. They could simply copy what they saw, and they could be called a scribe. Did not mean that they actually knew what they were writing. But I actually know that that means Saturday night.
Saturday night.
Yeah.
I like that.
You like that, okay. Verse 78. Who know not the book, meaning they are not aware of what is in it. Now, this is very dangerous because people who are hooked into their desires will often talk about even the Quran, and they really don't know what's in it. But they want you to think they know what's in it. And perhaps they might even want to control you. And that's why it's very important that whoever talks to you about the Quran gives you proofs. And as you know, the methodology of this class is whatever I say, it goes on the board. And you see usually Quran and Hadith about ahadith, which is plural for hadith, of whatever I'm talking to you about. Now today I'm going to be giving you a lot of tafsir that does not come from Ibn Kathir or does not come from Ma'aruf al-Quran. It's sort of what I see out of these verses and how I feel it can benefit you in the modern day. Ummi was one of the... and it's sort of funny, I think we have homies today, and they used to have ummis. I think that's it. One of the descriptions, they say, that's my ummi. Alright, ummi was one of the descriptions of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he was unlettered. For instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah 29 and verse 48, neither did you, O Muhammad, read any book before it. So he was, in the true sense of the word, ignorant of those, because he wasn't taught those, so to speak. Allah gave him everything that he needed. Didn't read any books before it, this Quran, nor did you write any book whatsoever with your right hand. So you didn't write this separate book that you could please people with and tell people what they wanted to hear. You came with the criterion of right and wrong. This book that we requested in Surah Al-Fatiha and in Surah Baqarah, right after it, we got it. This book wherein there's no doubt that people were challenged for. So, here's where I'm going to start having a lot of fun in a minute. I can't wait to get to this point. The Prophet ﷺ said, we are an ummi nation, neither writing nor calculating. The lunar month is like this and this. That is 30 or 29 days. This indeed stated that Muslims do not need to rely on books or calculations to decide the timing of their acts of worship. We have complicated things that used to do shadows. So last week, I actually showed you how at the time of Rasulullah ﷺ, if this was 3 inches and you held it up here in the sun, and it was 3 inches and 1 centimeter, I'm mixing metrics with whatever you call it, the other one, then it was time for Dhuhr. If it was twice the length of this, it was time for Asr. If orange was in the sky, it was time for Maghrib, and if you could hold up a white thread and you couldn't see it, then it was dark. So it was so simple. We've complicated things. Having said that, I'm all in favor of calculations because we have modern technology today and I think that we can benefit from it. Instead of going to your boss and say, I need Monday and Tuesday off for Eid because I'm not quite sure what's going on, we would be able to go to our boss with a lot of respect and say, we as Muslims are proactive, we believe in science, science is in the Quran, and I need Monday off because it's been calculated that that's Eid. So, he it is who sent among the Ummiyin ones a messenger, the unlettered ones a messenger from among themselves. So that is that part of the lecture, okay? And everybody sort of knows where we're going from there. Now, Amani refers to, I think I'm supposed to say Amani, right? Amani. It's supposed to be a deeper inflection in my voice, but that's my challenge with Arabic. Hopefully later I can improve my Arabic while I'm in college here, and when all that spare time is going to happen. All right. Desires, aspirations, wishes, and hopes. Now, in the world today, a lot of people are living by their desires, aspirations, and wishes and hopes. For people will say, if I only had a house in Dr. Phillips, I would be okay. I'd be cool. I'd be all right. I'd be popular. I'd be liked. And all a bunch of other things, including I'd have to pay a lot of taxes and all that. And then their wishes run them. I wish I had so-and-so. It's called a have-to-be world. It's a world of delusion. If I have this, then I'm going to be this. If I do this, then I'm going to have this or be this. If I can be Michael Jackson, I'll be happy. If I can be one of the great basketball players, then I'll be happy. Well, he's dead. I wouldn't be very happy to him. But I'm just trying to make a point here.
I'm already happy.
I'm happy too. I couldn't be happier.
Whatever I
So, Imam Ghazali, a great scholar of Islam, has a book called On Disciplining the Soul and Breaking the Two Desires. And I encourage all of you to read this book. If you really want to grow in your Islam, I encourage you to read this book. Write it down. Get it from Amazon. You can probably get a used copy for a couple of bucks. Interestingly enough, when I began to study Islam, the first books that I ever purchased were Ulum al-Din, the 4 volumes of Imam Ghazali, and I have worked those. I've probably read them every other year of my life, and I've been a Muslim 28 years. Powerful, powerful stuff if you really want to get rid of your desires and bring them into submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the ego, and I want you to talk about what this means to you in your life today. I'd like to make this some interactive class, but I'd like you to stay on point. Talk about this, about desires and the role they play, ego and the role they play. The ego is distracted and polluted by worldliness and has a tendency to drag the human down into arrogance and vice, driven by the very desires that lead to gluttony and sexual desire rather than the middle way. And of course, Islam calls us to the middle way. It says that it's that the oil that fuels us, which is the Quran, neither comes from the east nor the west. It's not a right wing or a left wing, but it's the path of mizan. It's a path of balance. It's not this rigid path that you cannot maintain. Allah has made things easy for us. So when we follow our desires, we tend to be very deluded and we get very off track. So anything that comes up for you about this, please raise your hand and share it with us, what you see in this. So a lot of the world, when they start struggling with the fact that intrinsically you were called to Islam, you were called to submit to God, becomes what we call an antagonist. And they start struggling with this idea, and they believe that this feeling is in opposition. You know, that it is hostile. They cannot work together. That either I must be a worldly successful person or a spiritually successful person, but I cannot do both. And we hear people, as a da'i, as a person out there inviting people to Islam, people tell me that all the time. Life is just too hard. I don't have time to pray 5 times a day. And my feeling is I don't have time not to pray 5 times a day. Because I know the danger of that. If I don't submit, I know what it's going to do to my soul. Many believe that one or the other is developed at the other's expense. So if I decide to be an ascetic, if I want to be a person who is really committed to Islam and dedicated to Islam, then I'm going to lose it in the world. And then vice versa. They are deluded to believe that for the soul, the body is a prison, and the activities of daily life are the shackles which keep it in bondage and arrest its growth. Does this sound familiar? Does the shaitan ever whisper to you this kind of thought?
Yes.
Anybody? Okay, now I'm the only one. Okay. Yes, thank you. I'd like to know that I'm not the only one that gets these occasional thoughts. So, this very thinking has divided most of the universe into either spiritual or secular. So if you notice, most people, do they excel in both areas? The majority of human beings, do they excel in both areas?
No.
No. Either you'll see somebody that has done extremely well in the world, they have the house in the most expensive area, they have the most expensive car they can drive, they have the fattest bank account, but are they excelling spiritually?
No.
Or you find the other side of the coin where people pray, they stay up at night and pray, and they get in a van and they travel around the world, or around the country and tell other people about Islam, but they don't take care of their wives and children. So it is a balance that we see a lot of challenges in. People are not there. Does everybody see what I see? Okay.
But rich people do good.
No, absolutely. Rich people do good. That's not the point here. Rich people absolutely do good. They're the people that give money to the masjid. MashaAllah, Allahu Akbar. But is that the majority?
No.
Yeah. Do the majority of rich people give like they could give?
No.
Absolutely not. And all you got to do is just go on the computer, Google it, do your research, and you'll find that the people that don't have are the people that give the most.
If
sacrifice.
If Muslims give zakat, there will be no hunger.
Absolutely, no question about it. But the subject of today is desires, and I want to try to stay with desires. Okay, how do our desires affect us? Or is everybody's here desires working for you? Are they driving you in a way that makes you pray 5 times a day? Make sure that you pay your zakat. And by the way, someone requested a zakat form from me today, and I've got it in my bag. Just want to remind you so you'll remind me. How many people have an intention and every month they're putting money into a non-interest bearing account so they can go to Hajj? So, those who choose a secular path are convinced that they cannot meet the demands of spirituality. So, what do you think about this, folks? Do you think that the body and soul are mutually antagonistic?
Yes.
Yes, they seem to be. Okay, alhamdulillah.
I think it has to do a lot with how strong your mind is.
How strong your mind is, or how strong your man is?
Well, you're a man, your heart.
Right,
faith.
very good. So, as a result of this belief, they get sucked in and often lead highly materialistic lives. And what I have found as a therapist is that a lot of people that come to my office have a lot of things. They have so many things, and they find great pleasure in their things. They are happy because of their things, and therefore they brag about their things. They talk a lot about their things, but they don't talk about their soul. They don't talk about how happy I am that I know Allah and His messenger. They talk about their houses, their boats, their RVs, their cars, and it's okay to have those things, but do those things make you?
No.
Or does your faith make you? And that's what we have to look at. This drives out the light of spirituality and all spheres of worldly activity, whether social, political, economic, or cultural are deprived of the light of spirituality. And what results is this kind of destructive power, injustice, and tyranny. And all we have to do is look at a lot of countries that are highly populated by Muslims. This is why you will never hear me call them a Muslim country. Because if it's a Muslim country, it'll be operating from the Quran and not from its desires. Not from its desires to give the oil money only to the family members and let the other people be poor. That's not an Islamic concept. And that's not Islam. Conversely, those who wanted to tread the path of spiritual excellence come to see themselves as noble outcasts from the world. So they feel, you'll hear people like really down on themselves because they're trying to submit to their natural instinct that they were born with. Sister, we've got a front seat chair for you if you'd like. Oh, you're waiting for coffee. MashaAllah. I just didn't want you to, we have to treat our women like queens. We don't want you standing up right there, all right? You got to practice what I preach. All right.
And I want you to.
All right, well, good. That's what I like to hear. They believe it is impossible for spiritual growth to be compatible with a normal life. Now, it's interesting because I was preaching at the age of 10. And I had to stand on 200 bridge dictionary so that people could see me over the pulpit. Because I wasn't always 6 foot tall. And my family would say to me, why don't you be normal? We want you to be normal. And I'd say, well, what do you mean? You want me to have a girlfriend and you want me to drink and you want me to smoke pot, right? And they said, yeah. I actually had people to tell me that when I was working as a minister. We want you to be normal. You're just too the other way. You know, all you think about is God. So they were my antagonists. Not my faith, not what I believe, but those people became my antagonists. So life is the ultimate test in Islam. It is the marathon. Every single one of us are in a marathon. And in that marathon, we are